Meredith's lawyer, Selwyn Pieters. Nice to see you.
Good afternoon.
So why is the senator on a sick leave right now? Explain that part first, perhaps.
Well, he has some physical and some emotional issues that he's dealing with, and on his doctor's advice, he is urged to stay away from work, and he's given a period of sick leave. When his doctor clears him to return to work, he will return.
Was this sickness brought on by the report?
Part of it was brought on by the stress and the psychological burden that this investigation, the report, and the aftermath has wrought on him.
Why would it have been a psychological burden, given the conduct that Senator Meredith admits to and says was a moral failing? What's a burden for him in that?
Well, Senator Meredith has, as you just said, he apologized, he asked for forgiveness, and he wants reconciliation.
Reconciliation with whom?
He wants reconciliation with his fellow senators, reconciliation with Canadians. I mean, this issue has been very divisive, and the way that it has been portrayed in the media is almost burden. It's almost, you know, it's been quite hectic for the senator. I mean, you have calls for you have some calls for his resignation. You have some calls for him to be expelled, and you have some calls for him to stay put. And so he's dealing with a lot, in addition to having a family that he has to take care of.
The Senate ethics report on his conduct was scathing. There is a code of conduct if you are a senator, and this is what it said, just so part of the report, which was 30 some odd pages long. The report said Senator Meredith drew upon the weight, prestige, and notability of his office, as well as his relative position of power as a much older adult, to lure or attract Ms. M, a teenager, who by virtue of her age was necessarily vulnerable. So why should the senator stay a senator, given that he used his position to do those things?
Well, it's debatable that he did. The Senate ethics officer has a report, but that report can be rebutted. Senator Meredith met a female who was above the age of consent.
She was 16 at the time, but when you are, the age of consent does not apply when you are in a position of authority, as was the case for Senator Meredith, as you well know.
No, it was not the case for Senator Meredith. Senator Meredith had no authority over that woman. The first time he met her was at a Black History Month event, and they exchanged contacts, and the relationship between the two of them grew. As a result of that. He was not our minister. He was not the senator in her riding. He had no position of authority over her, except that he was an older man.
He was in a position of power compared to her, was he not?
Well, you can be in a position of power compared to someone who you meet who might be earning less than you, or might feel that you have an influence over them.
Yeah, I think you've just made my point, though, have you not? Are you telling me that the senator at no point used his position as a senator to engage with this young woman?
He did not. I mean, the two of them met, and it seems like they struck up. They struck up a romantic relationship of sort, and he waited until she was 18, and they had sexual intercourse then.
But the Senate ethics officer, as you know, spoke to both sides, both to the senator and to this woman, and she believes that Senator Meredith is not credible and that the woman is.
Well, she's not. The Senate ethics officer is simply an investigator with whatever biases she comes with. She's not the final arbiter of this, and she's not the final arbiter of Senator Meredith's credibility. She simply wrote a report, and that report is binding on no one. And the Senate has said that much.
Well, but Senator Meredith admits to everything that has happened in that report, does he not?
He didn't admit to what happened in that report. He admitted that he had a relationship with that woman, Miss M, and that the relationship was morally wrong because he's a pastor, a reverend, and a husband. He has a wife and young children. And he is a senator, and he should be leading by example. He admitted that what he did was morally wrong and was an error in judgment. That doesn't mean he accepts anything in that report that the Senate Ethics Officer wrote.
But if he says it's a moral failing, sir, and if the Senate Ethics Officer is suggesting that he has brought dishonor to his position, why is he going to stay in the position?
He will stay in the position because all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. He who with all due respect, sir, people's religion and their beliefs have nothing to do with whether Senator Meredith deserves to be paid by Canadian taxpayers and sit in that chamber. Well, what has to do with whether or not he sits in that chamber is whether he performs his duty as a competent senator.
And has he done that?
And he has. He does not fall with any of the stratum in Section 31 of the Constitution that calls for the removal of a senator. The Constitution is very, very clear as to when a senator could be removed. His situation doesn't fall anywhere remotely close to a situation where he should resign or be expelled.
Fine. First of all, there's differing opinions about what the Constitution allows, and it will be the Ethics Committee of other senators who will decide what will happen to the senator, whether he will be suspended without pay or not. But I guess I'm asking you, he admits to a relationship with a teenager. He admits that it was a moral failing. He admits that he should not have done that as a senator. So again, why would he stay in that job? Why would Canadians allow him to stay in that job? What is his defense?
I cannot disclose his defense at this time. His defense is something for us to work on. But what I can tell you is that at this stage, he has heard the calls, those who say he should resign, those who say he should be expelled, and those who say that he should stay the course. He's heard all those calls, and right now he's home on sick leave. He will have time to consider what his options are. And that's why he's retained counsel.
Why does he say that it is an issue of race?
He said it's an issue of race because the manner in which the Senate, because we understand that the Senate Majority Leader sent out a letter saying that he should resign, and other senators have been calling publicly for him to resign. And so he is saying that those who are calling for his resignation and those who are calling for his expulsion are not looking at similarly situated senators.
There is no other senator. There is no other senator who is accused of having a relationship with a teenager. No other one.
He is saying that there's a double standard here.
There is no other situation. Give me the example of another senator who has engaged in a sexual relationship with a teenager.
I can tell you that there are senators who have engaged in sexual improprieties, and it's recorded. It's recorded in the news. I did a Google search today, and there were two different articles that spoke of various instances.
Not at all comparable to this. There was one senator who had a girlfriend who he employed, and he was taken to task by the Senate, and that person is no longer employed by him. Is there another? I'm trying to understand where would be the racial divide or the race card being played here, given that there is no other example of a senator with this kind of conduct.
The race card, as you call it, is that senators have misconducted themselves. Senators have been convicted of crimes and they're still sitting in the Senate.
That is not true, sir.
Senators have done any number of improprieties and wrongdoing. That's why they call it the rogue chambers. They don't call it the rogue chamber because of Don Meredith. That name predates him. They're all sitting in there. And we say that race is a factor here because.
But on what basis? But on what basis do you say that? You have yet to prove that point.
That's fine because number one, I'm gonna go through the test right now. He's black, he's male. Number two, the call for him to resign or to be expelled is totally disproportionate to the offense or the wrongdoing or the moral wrong or the ethics violation that's claimed to have been committed.
Well, you can make the second part of that argument, but I still don't have any evidence that he is being treated differently because he is a black man. He is being treated this way because he had a sexual relationship with a teenager and, according to the ethics officer, used his position as a senator in an undignified and dishonorable way. That has nothing to do with his skin color.
Well, it does in part because nothing that he said. The Senate ethics officer simply looked at Senator Meredith as a predator, as predatory.
Are you saying
and treated him that way?
Are you saying the Senate
stereotyped him based on his race?
Are you saying that the Senate ethics officer is a racist?
I'm not saying that she's a racist. I'm saying that the way that black men, especially black men in authority and power, have been treated is historically racist. There's systemic racism in our system, and if you're acting in a disproportionate way because the person who is accused of something is a black man, then one has to consider the race factor here.
But this is not because the senator is a black man. Again, this is because the senator admits to having a relationship with a teenager while he was being paid by Canadian taxpayers in his position and has brought disrepute upon his position. With all due respect, I do not see how the color of his skin factors into this conversation.
Well, I do, because you have to live in a black skin to understand the pervasive and the insidiousness of racism.
What about the pervasive and insidiousness of sexual conduct of a person in a position of authority?
In this particular case, it was morally wrong, but legally it was not wrong because the person is over the age of consent.
Again, I'm not here to. It's not a trial I'm conducting here. This is in relation to the ethics code that the Senate has itself. So let me just end on this. There is no chance now that Senator Meredith will step aside.
I just stated that Senator Meredith is in a period where he's considering all of the options open to him. He has not given me instructions in respect to whether he will step aside or not. He is considering the options that are available to him, and when he makes his decision, the Senate will know, the Canadian public will know, and you will know.
And until then, we'll continue to pay his salary.
And until then, Canadians will do what they do for everyone else. Senator Meredith's violation is a drop in the bucket compared to some of the serious issues that are going on in this country. Let's be real.
Well, I think that we can have a conversation about Senator Meredith and about serious issues, as we do on this program all the time. So we'll leave it there. Selwyn Pieters, thank you very much. Appreciate your time today, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay.